But aloo kabli is a salad, right?
Completely. Shane thinks salads need to be healthy.
It also has greens though.
Very little greens.
We are thrilled to welcome to Ranna Ghore Ke Abhijit Banerjee. He needs no introduction, but here goes. In 2019, he won the Nobel Prize in Economics along with Esther Duflo and Michael Kremer. He is co-founder of JPAL, a research center that conducts experiments to answer questions related to global poverty and how to alleviate it through policy changes. What many people, including us, didn't know before this is that he's also an avid cook. He has recently written a book, Cooking to Save Your Life, collecting in it some of his best and favorite recipes, which are all beautifully illustrated by artist Shane Olivier. We are joined in our kitchen today, both by Shane as well as the Nobel Prize winning economist and now cookbook author, Abhijit Banerjee. It was an honor to cook and chat with superb cooks such as them, and we can't thank them enough for the food and their time and thoughts. Namaskar, Bondhugon. You are watching Ranna Ghore Ke, a fun adda with old and new friends about food, life, and everything else. This is episode 2 with Abhijit Banerjee and Shane Olivier.
No, she was our au pair for 3 years. She lived with us, so we cooked together all the time.
I recognized you definitely in the illustrations.
And my wife is there, and my children, and Shane. This is my wife Esther. This is my daughter Noemi. This is my son Milan. And this is Shane. That's me. That's my sister-in-law Veronica. And then these are other people that Shane has imagined. I think this is inspired by Neil Mukherjee, if you know Neil Mukherjee.
Yes. Oh, the author.
Neil will be very happy to see it because he is constantly worried about having put on weight, and you have him very svelte.
Should we start? Okay, so what we have planned in terms of food today is we have papri chaat that we are snacking on. We have a cold Persian yogurt soup which we made last night and it's in the fridge. Shane is going to make the Thai pomelo salad. Pomelo is batabi lebu. Then Dr. Banerjee is going to make the coconut crusted prawns.
You will also call me Abhijit. Or Abhijit Da, you can.
The last 3 recipes, the yogurt soup, the pomelo salad and the coconut prawns are from Abhijit Da's book, Cooking to Save Your Life. Then Shoptoshi is also made for dessert, caramel custard. So that's what we have going on in terms of food today. So what Shane wants to do first is she wants to marinate the paneer, which will go into the salad.
My name Shane is the illustrator of this book.
Yeah.
Just to.
So I'll give you a knife.
This is the first time I actually with the onion.
Yeah. So Shane, while you do this, would you like to share how you came to be involved in this project of illustrating this book?
So as Abhijit said, I was the au pair for 3 years. And at the beginning, sometimes I was asked to do, like, I don't know, watch the oil or cut some cilantro. As I started to do that, I realized that Abhijit had a complete idea of structure about how cooking should be. That's cooking vinegar or what?
It's wine.
Okay, no, good. I started to ask more questions about how do I recognize that the oil is at the right temperature. Okay, look, you see there are ripples.
Yeah.
It ripples. Okay, so I started to observe a little bit more. I got a bit more vocabulary. Then I could take on part of the recipe, and then I started to do one recipe under Abhijit's supervision. Luckily, I really went through.
You rose the hierarchy of the kitchen.
Very fast. What she's not telling you is that she's making it sound like it took an infinite time. And
So what time span are we looking at?
by the end of her first year with us, she was an extremely accomplished cook.
So I think that's
Okay, that's done. We can leave it aside. You can wash your hands. The illustrations in this book are quite unique. The drawings are mostly abstract patterns. When you first look at them, you encounter shapes and textures and colors. Yeah, it's almost as if you're you're inviting readers to interact with the images and figure out, oh, this is an olive, oh, this is a pomegranate.
I really thought about the illustration as ingredients. I use squares, rectangles, triangles as like raw ingredients that then I chop, I mix, I rearrange, I change the color, the composition.
When Shane does illustrations, she defines a grammar, and then within that very tight grammar, variations are allowed. But the grammar has to be, this is the set of shapes I will use and no more.
I just put some lime juice and massage it a little bit.
Here.
It has nice effects on the board.
Shaptashi, will you quickly check that frame and see if Abhijit is in the camera, in the frame?
He's not, but I think that is fine.
No, but then I am in the frame all the time. That doesn't make any sense. So.
I can change positions with you if you. Happy to be studying a bit.
Abhijit, when he introduces your salad recipe in the book, he writes how you like to build your salads on a principle of harmony.
It's a little bit like how I think about my illustrations. I have some basic elements, which is mostly one main green, and then a cheese and fruit.
So this has everything. This has the
Yeah,
greens,
exactly.
the pomelo, the
That
peanuts,
corresponds to
paneer. It has everything. The salad is a matrix. You can fill in the bits, but it has to have a certain balance of something sweeter, something saltier, something like a nut which brings nutrition and crunch.
So by that definition, this is definitely a
That's a salad.
That's a salad.
I'm totally off it.
It's also like an experiment. I feel you change one variation at a time and you see.
Shane has been reading our research.
It's a beautiful pomelo. I mean, they look so fresh and juicy.
I have
Visual
a
pleasure.
childhood memory of Murshidabad. I must have been 6. We had gone there, Durga Puja time, holidays, and there was this garden, orchard of pomelo trees. And like sometimes it happens in October, a storm picked up. And I have this memory of running through this garden with the pomelos raining on us. Boom, 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 and then heavy. And so I was hit by one. I have this very, very vivid memory of running through a rain of pomelos. So that was exactly this season when the pomelos start becoming big and ripe and heavy.
That my pomelo is not
It's not well known, but it happens to people. Yeah, I think you can taste it and see if it's okay.
Sugar is behind.
Good আছে? You can use 3. This is actually less sweet than sugar. Definitely less sweet.
And I don't think a little more will hurt.
Yeah, you can add a little extra. Yeah, it looks exactly right.
Oh, it looks exactly like coffee.
Yeah, with a nice crema on top.
Excellent.
Still had chili on that.
I told you, wash your hands. This is
Use soap. Like wash under your nails, I think, because that's where.
Kochle, as we say in Bangla. So shall we put the water in the soup?
Yes, let's do that.
It's just everything's done. So I'm just going to add some water and some salt and taste it.
Cup measure?
Cup measure, yeah. I really think Persian food should be known more in India. We sort of imagine it as being kind of like Mughal food, but it's not. It's much more herb-based, tons of dill, parsley, cilantro, chives, different kinds of chives.
And not used as a garnish, but more as the ingredient.
As the ingredient. Yeah. It's wonderful, actually. I didn't make it, so I have no reason to be coy about it. But it's really very good. The way whatever you did worked very well. They are beautiful Persian raisins.
This is also from a store in Newmarket. It's a really old store, and the cellar is also extremely old.
Yes, I used to go to that. They have really wonderful dried fruit.
So this goes back in the fridge, right?
For now, it can be in the Aloo Bukhara is dried plum. You should try it with rock salt. That's what the Chinese do. Is they put it in rock salt.
This guy also gives us with this fruit salt that he.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is from his shop. The one is below a bit dry. So just dip it in salt and eat it.
Yeah, wonderful. These you can.
Okay, let's leave these also out.
It is too tempting.
Leave them here.
But yeah, I'll take a cup of tea. The tea was delicious. Coffee, she wants.
I love the green.
This is called Bagda.
This is the best prawn in the world. I'm not kidding. I really am looking at them and salivating. I so love them.
What a lot of people, including us, didn't know is that you are an avid cook. And you cook on a regular basis for friends and family. What are some of your favorite meals to prepare, especially on a weekday, say, if you have less time?
I will often cook Indian food. We would actually have typically 4 courses. So it will be 2 vegetables. When we cook Indian food, it's 1 salady vegetable, like a koshimbir or a chaat, a vegetable chaat or a vegetable and fruit chaat. So with raw mangoes or guavas, cucumbers and cherry tomatoes. So some kind of a chaat. And then I would typically make a dal, either fish, meat or paneer or something like that. That's sort of the structure of what typical meal is.
And all this on a weekday?
Yeah. Okay. No. We're toning down a little bit. We've gone to 3 dishes now because I don't have quite. Because Shane is not there anymore, I feel like I don't have quite the bandwidth to cook 4 dishes.
One of the things that you also talk about a lot in this book, as well as in Poor Economics, is the other concepts of taste and nutrition. So what we like eating, versus what we are supposed to like.
I would say in India we always kind of knew that this is a false duality, because in India, growing up in Kolkata in a time when nobody had any money, it was very clear that there's no reason to binge on meat. You use accents, like shrimps are an accent, shutki mach, a dried fish is an accent, little sharp mustard oil is an accent. You don't need to have extremely rich ingredients to have tasty food. You don't have to have them be incredibly fatty, and you don't have to have 500 grams of meat per head. None of this is necessary. One lesson we should go back to from the cooking of the people who can't afford very expensive food is exactly that you can generate taste in so many different ways. The beauty of the salad, that's why I want to go back to Shane, is in the sense that it's a format for using whatever. I think in India, again, we forget that chaats are salads and they were actually very filling food. I'm not exactly the person who usually argues for the traditional wisdoms of countries, but I think there is in food, I think poor people, because they had faced these dual constraints of generating nice taste and generating sustainable nutrition and affordable nutrition, I think they came up with wonderful solutions.
Since you also mentioned using shrimp or shutki as accent, in the West there is the discourses of vegetarianism and environmentalism have gone hand in hand. And you also mentioned that how connecting vegetarianism to the environment is kind of a fallacy in a country like India, because even though a large majority of Indians are meat eaters, we simply do not eat much of it. Meat or fish forms only a very small part of the entire meal. And also there's a tendency of religious and class and caste prejudices being couched as environmental concerns in India. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think we make that point elaborately in the book, and I think it's important politically. The real challenge is to eat more local, eat things that are off the season. So when we're eating batabi, pomelo, it's now and it's wonderful. You mentioned that, and I think that's exactly right. It's exciting to eat it when it's in season. Right. You go to a restaurant in India, you so much get the same bhindi, gobi, baigan. Whereas, there are thousands of vegetables, especially in Kolkata, like, kolmi shag, note shag, lal shag, ei shag, oi shag. There's so many different kinds of vegetables, each in its own season and each with its own unique flavors. And there's so much variety available, especially in Bengal. I mean,
I come from the Basque country, and they are huge meat eaters and cold cut eaters. So growing up vegetarian, I really had to bring it forward. It's because also it's in a context where people eat too much, like a lot of meat. So then you, in contrast, you have to be extremely radical about.
Yeah, it's either like none or all.
It's too black or white.
I mean, Shane will eat fish sometimes when it's just put in front of her. Yesterday we were in a village and they had cooked a nice meal and they served her fish. She ate all of it. I think the moral high ground is not the right. I think one thing that makes this discourse so polarized is that for a lot of people growing up in India, the meat is either proscribed and therefore maybe either awful or exciting. And I think that framing is also not helpful. The point is not to deny yourself the excitement. It's the obsession with quantity and slabs of this, and that seems to me to be the real challenge for a sustainability. কালো জিরে, এটা কালো জিরে।
হ্যাঁ, কালো জিরে হলুদ।
যে একটু বড় আছে কড়াই, একটু বড় কড়াই না, কারণ অনেক চিংড়ি আছে তোমার আমি দেখি।
So this is মোটামুটি the same.
No, it's actually bigger কারণ এটা flat, more surface area and prettier.
আপনি এদিকে চলে আসবেন। হ্যাঁ।
Read the recipe and remember the quantities. I function in a memory-free world. Anything, I have a pretty good memory, but it's used in this very strange way. Anything I don't need to remember, I just let go. This is a dish, it works on the principle of a bunch of extremely strong flavors and make them hit each other. It's an odd dish in the sense that it doesn't attempt to harmonize, and it's in the tradition of a set of dishes which Bangalis make, which are called Ganga Jamuna. Okay. It's in that tradition. Dishes which are deliberately confrontational. If you have a koi mach's Ganga Jamuna, you will have mustard sauce on one side and tamarind sauce on the other. This is in that style of putting together a bunch of very strong flavors and trying to achieve a balance. I think I had something in a restaurant. I often do this of having something in a restaurant and thinking about it and trying out variants of it. I used to make Ganga Jamuna and I decided I'm going to collapse the two. Korbo ranna? I don't know. Interest I had, I think, since I can remember, I have had interest. I would be sitting with my mother watching her cook. She would give me tasks from very young age, I would say 6 or 7. I was a diligent popper of peas or whatever.
Yeah, I think the yogurt soup recipe mentions a happy child as an ingredient.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was very much my role in life. I often tell people that when I cook, I see my mother's hands in it. So my hand gestures are modeled on hers. So, like holding the spices like this and then putting them in. These hand gestures are very, very much my mother's hand gestures. Shane, will you put the salt here? Yeah, and open it.
There's a spoon here.
There's a salt spoon. There's a beautiful geno. True that today we picked a good palette. The colors are going to be good. With the water to cook. Let it cook down. My mother used to like cooking roasts, and she made a wonderful roast pork. She also spent a lot of time in the UK, so there's a lot of English-inspired food. English appropriation of French cooking, I would say.
Isn't that the continental genre of food in Kolkata, the English appropriation of?
It's a completely different cuisine, which I don't think anyone from the continent would.
No.
Continental food is European food in Kolkata's old-fashioned restaurants. But continental food is an Indian word. I don't think it exists anywhere else. It means British appropriation of European food. And there'll be, for example, the famous cauliflower au gratin. you see what there is.
A lot of white sauce with cheese and then casserole.
I would very little liquid. I would crust the shrimps. We need surface area because otherwise the shrimps won't crust.
Right.
So we're going to use the surface area of the pot to cook. Shrimps are done basically. I think it's pretty much done. এটা ঢাকা দাও। দুটো কাঁচা লঙ্কা ছেঁড়া।
So then Shane, what do you need now to finish the salad?
Just to cook
So I
a
need
fry pan.
A frying pan.
I'm going to sit.
Half of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fine because you need actually might be the best version we ever made. We never made it with paneer,
With paneer.
but I think it might yet be the best version.
Should I raise the heat a bit more?
Yeah, raise the heat a little.
Yeah, since we are watching it, yeah, so I think it's fine.
In fact, in the Bengali expression is that when you wear glasses, you
Yes.
have 4 eyes. So we have 14 eyes here. I don't think you can be a cook if you're not greedy. So, you guys are cooks. Are you greedy?
When you use the term greedy, usually what do you mean exactly?
Who think of food, not of quantity of food, but they're excited by the possibilities of food.
Yeah, when you describe it like this, it becomes clear to me that greed is not a negative. It doesn't have a negative connotation because in Bangla the word hangla I often associate it with something which is
Like I used to call her Hangla sometimes, and she would be
Upset.
upset. Yeah, I would think it's yeah.
Yes, 1%.
Yeah, this is
Excellent. Shane is going to garnish the soup because she's an artist. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
this is as beautiful as you described it. It's
You should have it, not me. Why would I be here? You take. No, this is your bowl. I'm going to come.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Good. Somebody else made it, and I like it.
It's your recipe. It's a creme caramel. Not very good at unmolding it. It's not going to look perfect.
That's from the vanilla beans, the
Yes.
speckles.
Yes.
I like that move.
But see, it was not perfect.
I heard this story about Michelangelo. People asked him, why does David have such big hands? And he said, well, only God can make perfect. I have a dinner to go to. We have Indian dinner. We're going to eat hors d'oeuvres and drink for many hours.
But I hope you didn't understand we have no time between lunch. I hope it's going to
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like with everything that has been going on in the country and worldwide, climate changes, the pandemic, weakening of our democratic institutions to an extent, we constantly feel
quite pessimistic about.
Sometimes we feel like, what is the point of doing anything at all? Like, as someone who's worked on the ground, do you think that there is reason for hope in our lifetimes?
In your lifetime, things have got much better. In my lifetime, of course, much better. Since the year 2000, infant mortality has been halved. Almost none of that comes from China. All of it comes from the poorest countries in the world. I'm frightened by civil wars in many countries, even in India. For example, I think there's a north-south conflict in India which is simmering, but we will come to whenever they try to readjust the parliamentary seats. It seems to me that there are many reasons to be frightened. Democracy in the US could collapse. Democracy in many other countries could collapse. In some countries, the bigger risk is more that we'll have democratic authoritarianism. Right. I don't think there is any reason to be particularly sanguine. But on the other hand, it's hard to look back on, I mean, the year 1990 was such a year of broad despair. The Wall Street Journal in 89, it has this article, their predictions for the next 25 years. And what's brilliant about it is, so the countries that they predict to grow, well, one of them they picked very well, which is Bangladesh. One of them they picked was Thailand, which doesn't do anything good or bad. And one Olympic is Zimbabwe, which is a complete disaster. And the one country they very confidently assert will not grow is China. So I'm pessimistic about our ability to predict.
So do you think our generation has more of an alarmist mentality also because of social media?
I think there's reasons to be worried, and I think being worried is not a bad thing. Yeah, paralysis is a bad thing. But I don't think one should let up on worrying. That's not a reason to be. If I was looking into the future in 1990 and predicting what's going to happen, I would have been predicting wrong.
Off the mark.
At any point of time, there are enough reasons to be
Despairing.
despondent. Yeah, exactly. But you see what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to say we should be despondent. I'm saying we've often been wrong in all directions.
Then the intergeneration.
হ্যাঁ ওটা দারুণ হয়েছে I did not want to interrupt but that is excellent.
Secularism is something we consider good, right? Now, do you think there is an economic advantage to being secular, or is it just a moral
Imperative.
I think there is probably an economic advantage to being a society which uses its talents well. So if you discriminate against certain groups, you lose their talent. And I think in India we have many layers of discrimination. There is discrimination against Muslims, there is discrimination against lower caste, there's a whole bunch of forms of discrimination. The discrimination is women. We have the lowest women's labor force participation in the world, lower than Saudi Arabia. The economic consequence of that is that we have a talent pool which we are not drawing on. One should still, I think, hesitate to make the economic argument because it crowds out the overwhelming moral argument. There is a reason to make the economic argument, which is that it might appeal to more people. But just personally, I think the one risk is we should not forget that the moral argument is right. Because in the end, it defines the kind of society we have. I'm going to go wash my hands. ভালো হয়েছে খেয়ে বলতে পারছি না